Has started. Fine. So now let me go to that thing that we discussed in the last class. So before I begin, because this is the fundamentals of convective heat transfer, do you have any issue in understanding the concept of boundary layer? Because this has already been taught in your fluid mechanics class, fluid dynamics class. We were refreshing our memory, but still, if somebody has any issue, any question on this. So let me quickly again go through that. So this quantity that here we have mentioned is basically is the this delta. Am I is my screen visible to you? Yeah, now it's
Yes,
coming.
sir.
Yes, sir.
It's lagging. So when do you see this circle thing has happened just now that I highlighted delta, or
Yes,
it
sir, we
was
saw.
coming real time? Yeah, because there is a couple of minutes lag is there. Okay. Yeah. So the point that I mentioned is that this quantity delta is the boundary layer thickness, and it's typically defined as the value. So when our velocity, this u is 0.99 of the free stream velocity. Okay. Now on the same concept, there will be a thermal boundary layer similar to the hydrodynamic or the velocity boundary layer. Now here the thickness of this boundary layer was defined by this definition, that when this temperature or the temperature difference between the surface and the temperature at this del T, so if this is T, divided by the surface temperature minus the free stream temperature is 0.99. And then we spent a lot of time in understanding this part, that how conduction happens at that very minimum thickness of the boundary, or the say just adjacent to the wall in the boundary layer, and how we approximately can equate that with the Newton's law of cooling, and that provides us the value of H, which is the convective heat transfer coefficient, which we need to calculate. Fine. So from these expressions we reached till this step. Now here the temperature gradient near the wall, okay, this actually, with that means determine this value of H, because this Ts minus T infinity is basically a constant value. Okay, the surface temperature and the free stream fluid temperature, this difference is constant, and so it is independent of, say, the direction x. Now as we increase say x, with increasing x, this del y at y is equals to 0, this goes down. And for that reason, this H is strongly dependent on this value. Okay, and so this surface heat flask. Fine. So now consider a scenario where we have this geometries, say arbitrary shape of surface area AS, and say the surface, we assume the surface is at uniform temperature, which is Ts. Now this T infinity is the free stream temperature. If this free stream temperature is different than the surface temperature, then we can understand, or we know that the convection heat transfer will happen. And then what will happen, the surface heat flask and the convective heat transfer coefficient, or the convection heat transfer coefficient, both will change along the surface. Okay, so in that case, so now if it changes along the surface, then the total heat transfer rate, which is Q, we can get it by integrating the local heat flask over the entire surface, which is, if this is the local heat flask of an elemental surface area dAs, we integrate it over the whole surface area, and we get, yes, okay, yeah, so and so we get basically the total heat transfer rate if we integrate that expression. Fine. Now again, what we know, we just have seen this expression, that the local surface heat flask is basically convective heat transfer coefficient multiplied by the temperature difference of the surface and the free stream. We replace that here in this expression, and we can have this expression, which defines that we have to have an average heat transfer coefficient, which is H bar. So this is the average convection heat transfer coefficient, or average convection coefficient H bar over the entire surface. And then we can find the total heat transfer rate by multiplying that with the total area, surface area over which this convection heat transfer is happening, multiplied by the temperature difference. That means this H bar is nothing but of this expression. Fine. Now this is for any arbitrary surface area AS. The situation simplifies if the surface area is a, say, flat plate. Then what happens? This varies only with the distance x from the leading edge. Leading edge means the first point of contact of the surface with the free stream. So when there is a flow over a flat plate, the convection heat transfer coefficient, the average one, we have a simplified expression, which is 1 by capital L. Capital L means the length of the surface on which it is happening, the flat plate, Then we integrate this local heat transfer coefficient from 0 to L multiplied by dx. Is it clear? Any question?
Sir, like, can you please explain why the convection coefficient changes with x?
Yeah, so this is where I just mentioned. Look at this expression. Let me
So for the like
erase that.
how it's changing, we need to find like the temperature profile then. First.
Yes. Yeah. So say again, let me come back to this thing. So do you understand this expression that we received, that we have got by equating
Yes, sir.
conduction at the surface and the Newton's law of cooling? Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Sir,
in
I
this,
have like one doubt. Like this Newton's law of cooling is like the local heat which is flowing across all the boundary layer. Means it's the heat flowing from the surface to the boundary layers, right?
I mean, it is the transfer that is happening from the surface, okay, to the fluid.
So, sir, we will assume that it is constant means
Which one? Which one
across
is
all the
constant?
layers means this QS means we are assuming that all the
No, no,
boundary
no, no,
layers
no.
are
It's not equal. That's what I'm trying to mention.
okay.
This H, okay, our job is to find the value of H, and then only you can estimate what is QS double prime. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Because Ts is the surface temperature, T infinity is the free stream temperature.
Yes, sir.
Okay, these two values are constant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this difference, the denominator. Agreed?
Yes, sir. That
The,
expression, okay, it's fine.
this
Means you
this
are
is the,
applying the
yeah,
law, that conduction law, and you're just dividing it by the
yes.
QS factor. But sir, the
Okay.
point is that it will vary with X. Means how
Yeah,
can we
yeah,
say that?
yeah. Because this temperature gradient decreases with increasing x. The
Okay.
magnitude of this del T by del Y decreases as you go away from this from the leading edge.
Okay. Means the temperature profile changes.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
So here you have such kind of profile. Here, when you go there, you have, say, a temperature profile which changes.
Okay, sir. Because of which you are when you are considering an area, you are taking the means you are defining H as an average quantity, H
Yes,
bar.
obviously. Yeah. No, say this particular H is the local one wherever we are considering.
For one
For a,
boundary layer, it's a
right.
specific.
For a particular
For one
position of X.
temperature profile.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir. No, it's fine.
Okay. So the point is that in this expression, you have Kf, which is the fluid property, conductivity of the fluid. This is the temperature difference between the surface and the free stream. These two are constant, independent of X. But the thickness of the thermal boundary layer increases with increasing X.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now that means your temperature gradient changes. It decreases.
Yes, sir.
So this H decreases with increasing X.
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Yes, sir. It's fine.
Now that H we are now trying to find that this is now the local edge. But for any practical application, we have to find that, okay, what is the overall heat transfer coefficient, convective heat transfer coefficient for that surface. For that, if I have any arbitrary shape, that H is basically we can find in terms of an average heat transfer coefficient. And if that arbitrary shape is of a flat plate in nature, it simply falls or simplified to this equation, where again this H is the local H. And we will see how we will calculate H later. There are several empirical relations, several equations that we have to get it. Any question further?
Sir, the L which we are taking is the upper one, right? The upper length, since there is a tapered portion.
Okay. So this tapered position is to show that this is basically a tip where it hits first. You can think of the situation is like this. It's a flat plate. This leading edge shape dictates how the boundary layer will develop. If there is a sharp point, okay, and if there is a smoother curve of the leading edge, it just dictates that how the boundary layer or the flow will it smoothen or more turbulence will occur. And we are coming to that point. This is to show or say, this is to clearly make a distinction that it is called the leading edge or leading point, where basically a point where we are trying to show that this is the point at first the bulk fluid and the surface contact happens. So from there the boundary layer thickness grows. This is just a schematic presentation. And you are right that depending on these tapered positions or this point, what its nature, I also told in the last class that the transition of, say, the flow regimes inside the boundary layer, be it laminar or turbulent, that is dictated by the shape and size of this leading edge or the leading surface. So this is the scenario. Yeah.
Means if it is more smooth curve type, then there will be more turbulence, right?
Smoother will help to stable the flow. See, consider say a flow just coming into a pipe, a water coming inside the pipe. Now you heard about the entrance effect. If the inlet is corrected, then immediately, say, even if the flow is flowing in streamline or in laminar or in very low velocity, there some local fluctuations will happen. So the flow instability, the onset of flow instability will occur. If the corners are smooth, then the chances of this entrance effect or the influence on the occurrence of eddies will be lesser. Is it clear, Bhavna?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got that.
Right. So now the point is that we have heard about laminar and turbulence in normal fluid flow condition. Now, this laminar and fluid the turbulent flow conditions both occur, okay, in the boundary layer. So say we have this kind of a flat plate. So now we know that the boundary layer will be developed if there is a velocity gradient from the surface to the fluid stream velocity. Now, what happens is that in the laminar boundary layer, fluid flow, we know it's quite orderly manner it flows. Okay, it is possible to identify streamline by Reynolds experiments that I told in the last class. Now, as the boundary layer thickness grows, okay, the velocity gradient, as I mentioned, at y is equals to 0, which is here and on the surface, decrease with stream wise directions, which is in the x direction. Now we know this expression, right? That tau s is equals to y is equals to 0. Assuming Newtonian fluid, the surface shear stress we can estimate from this velocity gradient, where mu is the your dynamic viscosity. It's a fluid property called the dynamic viscosity. Fine. Now, say this local surface shear stress, it actually decreases as you increase x, as you go on increase or in the direction of x. Fine. And then what happens? We reach a zone where there is a transition from this orderly fashion flow to a more chaotic pattern, which is called the transition zone. Now this transition zone also changes with time. It sometimes behaves as laminar, sometimes turbulent. Now in the turbulent boundary layer, the flow is very chaotic in nature, or say very irregular. It can be realized by, say, the random motion. Okay, it's mainly three-dimensional motion that you can think of, a swirling motion. So mixing with the boundary layer, it happens at very high speed. So now here what happens? The mixing happens in between the laminar, the streamlines, and say more heat transfer happens between the surface and your free stream position. So now if this is your turbulent region, in the turbulent region the velocity profile, it becomes mostly flatter. Okay, there exists a position or layer that is called the viscous sublayer that you have already heard, and in between that there exists a buffer layer. Now we know that in viscous sublayer the transport is dominated by diffusion and the velocity profiles are mostly linear. Now in the buffer zone, the diffusion and turbulence mixing are, say, in the order of magnitude comparable, and in turbulence region, mixing is the dominant mode of, or the turbulent mixing is the dominant mode of transport. So what happens is that when we try to quantify, again by the Reynolds number, we say the Reynolds number, now, as it changes along the x direction, Okay, so this happens as this expression, which is rho u infinity, which is the free stream velocity, x, the distance from the leading edge, divided by the dynamic viscosity. So where for a flat plate, this x is the distance from the leading edge, or usually we say x is the characteristic length. Say for a circular geometry, it is the diameter. For a flat plate, it is the length from the leading edge. Now, this Reynolds number, we knew that, say, when there is a flow in a pipe, inside a pipe, for the flow to be in turbulent regime or to be turbulent, the Reynolds number has to be how much?
It's
Anyone?
greater than a number like I forgot it.
Around 10 to the power 5.
10 to the power 5 is too much, not 10 to the power 5. Flow inside
Sir,
a pipe.
3000.
What is the
Sir,
laminar
more than 3000.
condition? The flow has to be lesser than how much of the Reynolds number?
Sir, more than 3000 turbulent.
More than 3000 turbulent, reasonably well, but again, this number is something that you must remember for the rest of your life, kind of. There's a very specific number. Anyone?
Sir, it is 5 into 10 to the power 5.
No, I am asking for the pipe flow.
2300.
2300.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
2300.
2300, that's an interesting number. Why did you get this 2300? Because I have heard people to tell about 2100 or 2000, something like that, or even 24,000, someone tells.
Somewhere.
Do you remember someone told you, or you read in some textbook or somewhere else?
I read in some textbook.
Fluid mechanics, last semester fluid mechanics.
No, that is fine. See, these numbers are fine in the range of this value, even up to 2400. I understand. I mean, people write it, but 2300 I have not seen. I mean, in general, it's not a popular. Yeah, I mean, okay, fine. So 2300 you can say fine. So the point is that what I'm trying to say is that when there is a pipe flow or a flow inside a pipe, if the flow is so the Reynolds number is lesser than 2100, or someone say, as you said, the 2300 or 2400, this kind of values, the flow is laminar. Okay, now in between, say, 2000 to 4000, the region is transition. Okay, it's neither laminar nor turbulent, but beyond 4000, typically the flow is turbulent in a pipe flow scenario or a flow inside a tube. Okay, but when this scenario is there, when the flow is over a flat plate, when the flow is over a flat plate, this number, okay, is approximately, say, from 10 to the power 5 and 3 into 10 to the power 6. Beyond this, it becomes fully turbulent. The range is there. Now the point that Bhavna was mentioning, that depending on several condition or consideration, if you have a very controlled environment where, say, immediately after entering the fluid in a pipe, in fact, say consider this case. Okay, so consider a scenario, the flow is happening inside a pipe. You are doing some laboratory experiment. Now immediately it enters, due to entrance effect, as it touches this surface, and depending on the nature of the surface, depending on the shape of the entrance and all these things, you can control this transition number or the range of Reynolds number till which the flow will be laminar. And people have done controlled experiments, let me say controlled experiments, where they didn't find turbulence even until Reynolds number 25,000 inside a pipe flow. Remember, the point is the controlled laboratory experiment. It's a kind of a thing that every car maker tells you, that you have 25 kilometers per liter of fuel mileage, which you actually never get it. But it's an ideal condition. They do the experiment and they tell you the number. So similarly, never in a real conditions, beyond these values, the flow will be turbulent. But if you can control the experiments, several considerations you make, you can still achieve Reynolds number up to 25,000 in a pipe flow to be in laminar condition. But that is very rare. And that is why this range is here. That usually beyond 10 to the power 5 of this Reynolds number, which is defined by this expression rho u infinity x, x is the distance from the leading edge, divided by the dynamic viscosity. Beyond this number, the boundary layer would be turbulent, or the flow would be turbulent. Using several considerations, several ideal conditions, you can stretch it up to another order, that is 3 into 10 to the power 6. Even till this point, the chances of having laminar conditions prevail if you can do some controlled experiment. Okay, and again, it's not 5, 3. Someone can also say, some textbook says 5. So this is the range. Basically, it varies. So someone says 5 into 10 to the power 5 to 3 into 10 to the power 6. This kind of range, basically. Okay, so this is a typical gate questions. The aptitude questions that found in a gate is that the flow over a flat plate, what is the critical Reynolds number? Okay, you have to look for this correct magnitude. It is definitely not 2100, it is definitely not 4000, it is in the order of 10 to the power 5 or 10 to the power 6. This number you have to look in the options that are provided. And say the representative value as a bottom line, you can think of 5 into 10 to the power 5. Now you have realized that there is hydrodynamic boundary layer, there is thermal boundary layer. Analogous to this concept, if there is say the concentration difference, okay, you will study that in mass transfer, that if there is concentration gradients between 2 points, or say the near surface and the free stream, what you have is the concentration boundary layer. So this schematic shows the development of all the 3 boundary layers in an arbitrary surface. So the velocity boundary layer, we have the development happens due to the velocity gradient between the surface and between the surface and the free stream. The thermal boundary layer results from the free stream temperature and the surface temperature. So analogous to that, if there is concentration gradient, you also have concentration boundary layer. Now the point is that this thickness that is shown here, say this distance it is shown here, this distance for this case and this distance for the other case, these are arbitrary. Okay, so it is not that always hydrodynamic boundary layer thickness would be higher than the thermal boundary layer and all these cases. This is just for the sake of illustration. Fine. So, and typically this happens when you have the mixture of A plus B of different concentrations, having A and B. So there is Ca infinity, which will try to be uniform throughout the flow profile, and quite understandably everything depends on this velocity profile, the hydrodynamics. So this actually has an foundation, and that is why, say, whenever we try to model or whenever we try to design something, it's essential that we understand hydrodynamics of the system at first. We say the hydrodynamics. By doing that, what we study the velocity profile, because that influences the other boundary layers. Fine. So now what we will do, we will try to understand the governing equations of the boundary layer. Now before going into that, so do you remember the Navier-Stokes equations?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you roughly tell me, it's not to be say the expression or say the term wise, but can you tell me what are the things there in the left hand side of the equation and on the right hand side of the equation? You did not tell me the expression, but you can tell me that these are the things are there. Do you remember in that way?
So like convective momentum is equals to conductive momentum plus pressure gradient plus due to some gravity, I think.
Yes, yes, yeah, I mean, close to that. Anyone else?
Sir, actually it is a momentum balance equation. So on left side it is a conductive momentum balance, conductive momentum expression, and on left side it is convective momentum, and on right it is conductive momentum due to pressure difference and due to gravity and due to viscous. This mu times du, this is due to the viscous.
I mean, all of you were saying in terms of conductive momentum. What do you mean by conductive momentum?
Conductor momentum means the transfer of momentum, but this transfer of momentum is not due to the transfer of molecules or transfer of matter.
It is transferred by diffusion.
Yes.
So that is called, that the popular terminology
So
is called
like
the diffusive
conductive
flux.
momentum is due to the molecular transport and convective is due to the bulk transport.
Bulk transport, to be precise. Yes. So it is the molecular diffusion and the bulk diffusion, or the bulk transport. I would not say the bulk diffusion, but the bulk transport. So the terms, the actual nomenclatures are, say, the convective transport and the diffusive transport. Okay, so these are the convection or the convective transport, these are the diffusive transport, this is the pressure gradient, and these are the external forces, or say the body forces, which includes gravity, centrifugal force, other say the electric force or magnetic force, whatever you can give on a fluid to make it happen, the flow, in addition to the pressure drop. Okay, so the point now, I think, okay, I will not go into the details now, right now, because we are almost over with the class. So the point here, by tomorrow, I want you to again revisit Navier-Stokes equation. Okay, what is Navier-Stokes equation? Please remember that, because in the last semester you did that, right? The fluid mechanics. It should
Yes.
be your fresh
Yes.
memory. Yeah, so it should be your fresh memory. So if you have forgotten, just again go back there, because this convection part heavily depends. Now we can see that it heavily depends on the hydrodynamics. So you have to have a very clear head, clear idea on what is Navier-Stokes equation, what are the meaning of those terms, because we will not again go into the details on the derivations, etc. I hope you have done the derivations, right? The Navier-Stokes, how it came by elemental analysis, the force balance, stress balance, or the momentum and force balance, mass balance, and etc. You did that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So tell me. Otherwise, I mean, I got scared that it should typically be done in such classes. So we will not go into the derivations. I will write a couple of terms. Okay, and you should be able to get those things. Okay, so so the point is that I will stop here today, and say that tomorrow then I will take up this boundary layer equations for laminar flow and other conditions, um, and that will happen at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So any questions at this moment?